for coming. We are gonna get started. We've got Hemal in the house, all the way from North Carolina. So I'm going to sell, and we are going to take turns just giving a brief introduction. Tell me a little bit about you, if you're running a business, what you need, what you have to offer, whether you're an active investor or a passive investor. Just kind of talk about what skills you have, what bottlenecks you're struggling with, and a little bit. So I will give you an example by introducing myself. So my name is Emma Powell. I live in Salt Lake City. We're from Austin, Texas. Been here about 3 years. I am a large multifamily syndicator. We have a couple of hundred different units between value add and new construction. And what I do basically is passive investor education, because my goal is to help people make money in real estate, whether they want to be full-time active investors all the way down to passive investors. Because if you're active, let's partner up, let's do a deal. If you're passive, let's partner up and let's do a deal. Everybody has different goals. So what I can offer is basically just free advice. I obviously love to talk and I love to teach. And so if you're looking for, somebody called me yesterday and he said, hey, how did you legally structure this deal that you did? I'm doing a similar one. Just walk me through it. So I shared with him our stuff. And so just those kinds of phone calls. If you have a deal that you don't know what to do with, or you have some cash that you're looking to place, reach out. One of the struggles that I'm having is just keeping everything recorded, organized. And so if you are a very detail-oriented person, financial manager, or a really good operations manager of those kinds of systems, I really could use some help getting those set up. But what I really need, just like everybody else, are more deals and more capital to pay for those deals. So those are my two big asks. It's always the same every month. So the only difference I would do on that one is make it about 30 seconds. So Hemal, I'm going to have you start, and then we're going to go in alphabetical order with Cheryl Abram going first, and then Don Spafford is going to go after that, even though you're C, because you're not under C. Your name starts with a D, but it's close enough. You're next in alphabetical order either way. So Hemal, get started, then Cheryl, and then Don.
Yeah, I'll keep it super short because I get to share my journey a little longer and don't get 30 seconds. But Hemal Badiani, based in North Carolina, Charlotte, best place on earth. And I'm a multi-family and new development and multiple asset classes investor and operator here in the Southeast and many other states. And what I would need is someone who knows probably like integrations, Zapier, because we're trying to systematize a little bit more. Our team's growing between 3 or 4 systems and tools that we use, and I would love some help there if somebody knows about it.
I don't know about it, but I can introduce you to somebody who does. She's actually a stateside-based virtual assistant who really specializes in systems design, can get your SOPs up and running and then pass it off to like a cheaper Filipino VA once she gets it all designed. So I'll hook you guys up.
You're amazing, Emma. Thank you.
All right, Cheryl, and then Dawn.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Cheryl Abram, and I've been actively investing in real estate since 2013. I have a W-2 job that keeps me super busy, so I've been having a hard time scaling. So this year I'm looking to get more into passive multifamily investments. What I need right now is just some mentorship in the passive investment side, maybe somebody to sit down and go through a couple of the deals and opportunities that have been presented to me. So
I think I can help you out with that, and John is really good at that as well. All right, Don, I don't see you, but if you're in here, raise your hand and take a minute.
Sure, I'm here. So my name is Don. I live in southeast Idaho. We moved here from Omaha about 5.5 years ago. Been investing in real estate since 2017. My wife's a realtor, has been doing that since about 2011, 12. and since she started, she's always worked with investors from the very beginning. It's kind of what piqued my interest at the beginning to figure out how they do that, and then learn more about it later on. But we've been investing since 2017. We bought our first property as a fourplex. Didn't want to start small. I want to start big. Knew I had to get involved somehow before I could get into other bigger deals or find private lenders. I had to at least have something under the belt and start investing with that. So we did that, and then that led to, of course, other opportunities, meeting people, and deals that tried to put together and didn't quite get there. But just through the process, making more connections led to other opportunities, and we now have 3 fourplexes and some commercial land, and we're actually in the process now to build a commercial space in Arkansas. And as of right now, I'm still just trying to grow. Like Cheryl said, I want to scale. I also have a W-2 job that takes up too much of my time. Sometimes it feels like the day is just the job gets in the way of the investing stuff. So I really want to focus on the investing, and I'm trying to scale to that point where I can have enough income coming passively that I can walk away from that W-2 job. And so at this point, I guess all I really need is more deals and more partners and ways to scale like that.
So Don is one of our. Can I share one of our new investors on our Arkansas property? And Don, I think you are striking me as an excellent capital raiser. So bring him a deal, and he will figure out a way. You're very good at networking and just reaching out to people and getting people interested in your deals, and can wrestle up capital almost like a natural talent. So definitely reach out to Don if you're looking for somebody who you can scale into that position in your deal. Thank you. We now have next on the list is Jeff Helms, otherwise known as Stephanie on Clubhouse, and followed by Jody Evans, my partner in Salt Lake City. Jeff, we can't hear you. Let me see what we can do. You are on mute. There you go. Now can we hear you? Nope, still can't hear you. Okay, Jeff, here's a Hangouts tip for everybody. If you go down into the bottom right corner and you open up the bar that says mute yourself, hang up, turn on your video, raise your hand, on the very corner you'll have 3 dots that says more options. And you're going to want to go in and click on your settings. And your settings will have a microphone and a speaker. And make sure that's set to the same device, because if it's 2 different devices, sometimes you'll not be able to speak. I noticed that's a common issue with Google Meet. And so just make sure that that's set to the same. Jeff, if you want to give it a try again, we're going to have Jody go, and then we'll come back to you and see if it works. All right, Jody, take it away.
Sorry, I just barely got on. I'm sorry. So.
Oh, Jody's always driving, because Jody's a busy guy. So just a quick introduction. Jody and I are partners on my new development deal in downtown Salt Lake City. He called me a couple of months ago and he said, I'm a commercial contractor and I want to build this project. So we've been working together the last couple of months, and Jody is kind of like Don in a way, like with the scraping up, squeezing up capital to get stuff done. He is a commercial contractor in Salt Lake and has been really invaluable to the project with that expertise in the design architecture process, and also shaking up the tenants. He has a very good sense of humor too.
Yeah, I've been in construction many years, and boy, Emma said about everything that needs to be said. I'm a go-getter and ask questions later, get it done and ask questions later.
Yeah, and he speaks Spanish like a native. Super.
Un poquito.
Yeah, un poquito. That's right. No, that's super useful. All right, thank you, Jody. We're gonna go on to John, my partner on my deal in Little Rock.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Hey, everyone. My name's John. Like Emma said, I'm working on a deal with her in Little Rock, which is my first multifamily deal. Hopefully we'll get that stabilized in the next couple months, which is really exciting. what I need right now, I'm just looking for really good deals to potentially partner on with experienced operators. If you're active in Florida, we're really starting to build a team out and an operation down there. So I would definitely love to connect with you. And also, if you're in the Denver area, I just moved here like a month ago, and I'll hopefully be here permanently. So should definitely meet up if you're out here.
John is a financial whiz, financial manager on our team, builds models and keeps the project on track, very detail oriented and an incredibly hard worker, definitely a massive asset to that team. So you definitely want someone like John or John on your team. Just amazing at what he does. Okay, we've got Kenny followed by Nina.
All right, hopefully my microphone works as well. Sweet. So my name is Kenny. I'm also in Salt Lake. I'm still fairly new. I'm just trying to get my first deal under my belt. Working a lot with Emma. She's been great, and John as well. I'm looking for people to network with, connect with. Don, I definitely want to get with you on capital raise, and John definitely on Florida. So that's what I'm looking for, just people to network and connect with and team up with.
All right, and I love Kenny's looking at some huge stuff, like big deals. And so if you want to scale big, I love the aspiration there. It's most people are too scared to start big, so just jumping right into it with both feet, which is awesome. Getting hooked up with the right people who can help you run that thing, like just like that guy.
Yeah, I like big deals.
Yeah.
Let's look up.
All right, Nina, and then Paul.
Good evening. I am Nina Schooley. I live in Central Michigan, and I, like Kenny, am in kind of the same boat there with really just trying to get started. I actually, instead of keeping my W-2 job and trying to figure it out, I quit my W-2 job and I'm going to figure it out. So it's really exciting. We've done a couple little deals. We are putting our cottage up as a vacation rental, so we're going to kind of go that route. And from there, we do have a little bit of money available to work with and hopefully raise some extra capital in order to continue doing more deals as well. So that's kind of where we are. And aside from that, like I said, want to get started and learn the tricks to the trade.
Awesome. Thank you, Nina. We had a good phone conversation. What was it, yesterday?
Yeah, just
yesterday. Definitely have same thing, some big aspirations and goal setting. And I think that what you've got right now is the same thing my husband and I have going, where I didn't have a job. I lost my job when we moved here, lost my business. It's a very location-based business. And it's just been this W-2 with the full-time real estate investor has just been the perfect marriage, because I can 100% focus on the real estate. He keeps the lights on, and then my real estate professional status offsets his W-2 income. And so he's getting all the benefits of our passive losses on his active income. So it's actually like a little match made in heaven there. Plus it's our 24th anniversary this weekend. That works too.
Happy anniversary.
All right, we got Paul and then Sophia.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm based out of Dripping Springs. It's a little town outside of Austin, Texas. My primary focus is trying to find my first deal on a multi-family investment, either in Texas or Florida or anywhere else. And whatever makes sense and we can pull the trigger on. So always looking for deals and figuring out how to put it together and kind of go from there.
Yeah, Paul basically lives in my old neighborhood in Austin, and we didn't meet until after I moved to Salt Lake, and somebody introduced us because we were both working on multifamily projects. So that was kind of funny. So every every apartment complex that we look at in like Austin or San Marcos, he knows, I know, just the same places, same streets, same haunts, like a little nostalgia blast almost every time we talk.
Very true. Even though we haven't spoken French with each other in a while.
Oh boy, my French is so bad now. I could practice with you and make it better, but I'm too lazy. Okay, so Sophia, go for it.
Hey, I'm Sophia Wong. I'm actually located in Richmond, Virginia. I met Emma in one of our other, I think, lady investor community. So I've really enjoyed her group with a lot of information. I'm new in the commercial side of the business. I've been in residential investing, flipping houses for the last 10 years. But I'm trying to consolidate some of my rentals, liquidate it. It's a great market to sell any of your residential real estate almost across the country, other than a few very high cost living cities. And then I'm actively learning, looking for mentorship, and hoping to get into the active side on the multifamily as well as passive side.
Yeah, just let us know if you have any 1031 money coming up that you need to place. Some of us might have some ideas for it.
Yes, I might.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And and we'll also talk about like better ways to invest than 1031. If you're watching this later, everybody goes straight for the 1031, but there are lots of other ways to reinvest your capital gains, to defer your taxes than a 1031. Some of them better, but they're all very situation dependent. So, all right.
I hear that opportunity zone's a really good way.
Thank you, John. It's almost like I paid you to say that. So
not being paid to say that.
But you know what else also has really good tax deferral is an old project that we're putting a lot of renovation money into, so you can get a lot of immediate depreciation, right? A heavy rehab or new construction, you get really great depreciation on those. So lots of options. All right, so I appreciate everybody introducing yourself. The purpose of this is really for networking. So if you're watching the video later or you're here now, like the point of this is to hook up in the private messages and just get to know each other so we can start doing deals and putting money in other people's deals and working together. So Hemal and I met at a live conference that John and I also met at last, was it March? It was right as COVID was coming a thing.
Yeah, it was beginning of March.
Yeah, it's like that first weekend of March. And I met Hemal, and you gotta correct me on this story. I don't want to get the details wrong, because at the time you were investing in real estate, but not in commercial real estate. And you were telling me at that conference, I really want to get into my first apartment deal or commercial deal. Like I said, correct me on the details. And we talked about that quite a bit. And then a couple of months later, you sent me a message or an email or something about some deal you were closing on, some portfolio, like 1,200 units. It was like your first couple of deals, like bam, 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 right in a row. And then a couple of months later, you sent me some more stuff. I was like, how is he doing this? Most people I meet that are like, oh, I'm trying to get my first deal, they never really get into their first deal. And you just took it away. So I remember I called you when Paul and I were actually looking at this massive deal in Austin, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get enough money to pay for this thing. How do you raise that kind of capital? So, I had a long conversation about that, and I was just really impressed with how fast you scaled and some of the ways that you're doing it that most syndicators are not really either doing or taking advantage of, because maybe they're scared of it or they don't even know that it exists. And so I really was inspired by your journey this last year and wanted you to come and share that with us as both active investors and also what we should be looking for as passive investors. There are a lot more options out there for us to invest than maybe we realize.
Yeah, well, first of all, you're very kind with your words, so thank you, and hope you can hear me. By the way, John, I love the Tom Hanks Castaway look, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Hemal.
After a long time. Yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible. I think COVID in 2020 were the best professional year of my life, and I found my true calling. And I'll talk through my journey a little bit. Got a handful of slides, just talking about what we're doing, what I believe are good principles from building our team, and what we're trying to do intentionally, and then. Happy to show, answer any questions in terms of deals, broker relationships, funds, due diligence processes that we've employed, show spreadsheets if you need to, whatever, right? I'm happy to enable the group here in their journey for passive investments so they can make smart and more informed decisions, and also whoever's looking active investments can hopefully help them out as well. And it's good to see you, Jeff. All right. So you all ready to be mesmerized by my clunky slides? All right. Let's see.
I know a virtual assistant for that too, by the way.
That's my 7th team member. We're trying to hire a virtual assistant. Well, we've hired someone who's going to be our virtual assistant. So nothing without branding, right? This is our brand, Exponential Equity. I'm the managing partner / service provider for all the team members here. Can you all see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, good deal. So a little bit about my journey, because I'm more fascinated about this than most people. So first part, pre real estate, 15 years in the management consulting realm. I lived in 3 continents. Really helped Fortune 100 companies build their brands, innovate, efficiency, scale, mergers, acquisitions. So worked with everybody from Disney theme parks to the Vatican, Monsanto, Google, all kinds of companies, Singapore Power and Light, down in Asia. Lived my life off a suitcase, up or out, never put my foot on the table type of deal. You got to work 80-hour weeks. And then these two happened about a few years back. My twin kids, Ayan and Arya, a gift from God, an angel. That's what the names mean. And suddenly realized that lifestyle is kind of important, and was trying to pivot. Right, came from a family of business owners. My father, my grandfather back in India. Own a bunch of factories and stuff. So I grew up in a model where systems, processes, employees, that kind of culture was important, but never got into that. I was just chasing this corporate ladder for a long time, so what I did was, once my twins were born, I changed jobs. Really started getting a little bit more intentional what I wanted to do. So I said, how do I earn double the money than I'm earning in the consulting space, but also get to work from home, get a nice assistant, and really get a job that makes me work 30-hour weeks, and I can drop my kids to school, etc. Pipe dream, right? So applied to probably 200 jobs, probably more. And a year and a half later, persistent, told my story again and again, what I can bring to the table, and then joined Wells Fargo about 3.5 years back as a senior vice president. Exactly that, doubled my income, lessened my hours, worked from home, got a full-time assistant. So that was great. Learned some lessons from there. And then tried to, with this time in my hand, going from 80-hour weeks to 30-hour weeks, I'm twiddling my thumbs, even knocking it out of the park here. So tried to find my calling. So I said, let's open an outsourcing company. So I built a BPO firm back in India. From here, scaled it really fast, exited. Then I built a private lending firm in 2018, scaled that, exited, didn't really enjoy it, even though it's making some money. And then started my wholesaling flipping business in 2019. Again, didn't know a word about it. Flipped houses, built a team of 10 very quickly, and was making great money, transactional stuff. Wasn't enjoying it. Didn't like the fact that I had to call distressed homeowners. Didn't like, was a chicken at heart. I'm still a chicken at heart from that perspective. So was really seeking a change, right, and trying to understand the conundrum of what I want to do. So watched Brandon Turner. If you guys know BigInPockets.com, Emma's been on the Brandon Turner podcast as well. And Brandon was talking about this dude, Jason Dries. He's a performance coach. So I called him up, stalked him first on Instagram back in January 2020, then called him up. And I said, dude, this is, I'm in this conundrum. I have a successful business that I don't like. I literally have to climb down a mountain, climb up another one, whatever competency I want to build. And he's like, dude, you got to shut it down. So first meeting with him, I got this epiphany, or that little push nudge that I needed. Best decision I made. I actually had to shut the entire business down. And there I was in February, in March, trying to understand what path to take. And I was trying to buy a new hotel with a bunch of friends here who own hotels. And the first time I heard about syndication, group investment. So that's where I met Emma, attended a couple of events in just before COVID hit. First passive investment in April 2020, did 3 passive investments. I'll talk about why. And then September 1st, 2020, we closed 208 units. September 28, we closed 128 units, both as junior partners, co-sponsors. Then December 24th, we closed 64 units as main partners. And then now we're doing our first soup to nuts, 246 units, closing in a couple of weeks in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And this is a $12 million deal. Probably the smallest we'll do is my goal. So, and I'll explain how our team looks like. But that's where we are right now. So great journey, 2020, entirely super great.
Less than a year.
Less than a year, yes. With a full-time job with 2 5-year-old kids, it's been amazing. This is our team right now. So it's me here as the CEO, my buddy Yomesh, he's the CEO, completely complementary to my skill set. We got the beast here, Casey Koenig. A couple of folks know him. He heads our multifamily acquisition. So this dude has so much faith in me and my vision. He moved from Raleigh to Charlotte with his family to be part of my team, which is amazing. And he's full-time. I'm still not full-time. I'm trying to quit. I'm going to quit my job in a couple of months, but he's full-time for my firm. And then we have a couple of analysts. One works as an originator with a lending firm. One is a real estate broker. They both are, these guys churn 25 evaluations, underwriting every week right now. So 100 deals a month is their KPI. We're trying to push that to 200 deals a month. I'm trying to systematize a lot of things like crime rate and property data and all of that, scraping all of that. So we can make decisions faster, work with institutional people on that. In the meantime, we've got head of new development, Brandon Maxwell, another local Charlotte guy. He's going to lead up our construction management arm and our development arm in the Carolinas. And the goal there is to, build multifamily, but also be a servicing arm to a lot of tailwinds that the Carolinas have, right? If it's mixed use development, if it's schools, if it's roads, whatever you need, you should be coming to Exponential Development, that brand that we're creating. So that's kind of the team right now, trying to hire the first virtual assistant for the team for some admin stuff, and also looking at basically these roles: marketing, technology, investor relations. And we've also tapped, right now my vision is 2022, we want to create our own property management firm in-house. So I already have a guy who for the next 8 months is going to trail or shadow the 3 or 4 property management companies, different companies that we'll hire, and learn from them. And that's kind of our technique, and I'll explain that a little bit, and then eventually bring that in-house. So that's the team right now. Pretty amazing folks who work probably 70 hours a week, every one of them, and they really enjoy what they're doing. So let me pause there before I go into some of the things that I've learned that may or may not be useful to you and hopefully help you out. Any questions so far, Journey? And I cannot see you guys, so.
I actually just want to point out what you just did there. Even just an org chart or organizational chart shows an intentionality of the business that you're currently running, where you started, where you are, and where you're headed. So that the power of just writing these things down, and not necessarily in words, but just planning out the framework of how this thing is going to look.
Yeah.
That right there was the price you guys all paid for admission. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So sure.
Can I ask something? So Hemal, you mentioned that you called the coach, and did you? I'm trying to understand. Before you set up the org chart, did you get some help from someone in the industry to help you with some of these, or you kind of just read through, talked to some experienced people?
No, the coach doesn't help you. He's not like a strategy coach. He's not a mentor, right? I've hired 3 mentors. I'll go through that through 2020. One for branding. So we spend months and months. If you look at exponential-equity.com, I like the site because it has all the bells and whistles and all that stuff. And we hired a couple of folks, one for the operations part, one for the team part, etc. And then combined it with my experience, right? I had the good fortune of working with so many CEOs and CEOs and larger firms, really smart people that even at the age of 22, I was asked to consult them on their business. Someone running billions of dollars, they have some organizational inertia or political stuff going on, and somebody to come in and say black and white, this is how they should change things. And so I absorbed a lot of what really where I stand, what kind of leader I am, what kind of team and culture and values I want to bring, and what really kind of organization I want to build, right? And I'll speak to, how each one can think about it, right? I chose to think in a certain way. It comes with a certain amount of sacrifice. It comes with a certain amount of discussions, goals, etc. that might not be the path for someone else. And at the end of the day, 100% of $1 million or 1% of $100 million, it's the same thing. It's what kind of company you want to create, right? And I'll explain why we wanted to go that way. Hope that helps. But this coach didn't help me with an org chart or anything of that sort. In the consulting world, the main rule of thumb is, because you're billing by hours, the consulting world, the rule of thumb is you make yourself redundant. Because you got to walk away. And so my job as CEO is pick every piece of the puzzle where I'm bottleneck. Right now, I'm doing all the systems for our investor subscription. So guess what? I need a VA that's going to do that, right? I want to take that piece of my role and make myself redundant from that. The next piece would be, well, if I'm updating my websites, well, I need someone to do that. Or if I'm building our investor decks, then I need to do that. Or if I'm calling a lot of investors, then I need someone to do that. Just piece by piece by piece, we want to build that brick by brick by brick, an organizational entity that allows us to just continue to grow. Because you want to have someone who's at the strategic level, right, forward thinking, and someone who's handling the tactics. You need always a dual role. And there's a lot of books and things that kind of explain that, right? It's the CEO, CO mentality that large organizations have. One is managing the day-to-day operations. You want someone who's pushing the property management firm to maximize and get the vacancies out and deal with the materials and stuff. And you want the other guy or gal who's looking at, well, what are we building next, right? Where do we want to be next? How do I push the teams, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll go to some of that in the principles as well. In the meantime, any questions?
My question is, your funding, you've only done this in a year. How were you able to get all the funding for all those big projects?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. We started, again, it was the intention, right? So we started with, when we started 2020, we started in an era where sellers were really scared, especially in that summer 2020 timeframe, or 3 or 4 months, when in my mind, COVID discount was really a thing still, which no longer is the case, right? So our job at that stage, capital was the biggest deal. And so what we did was, when we started doing joint venture partnerships, we said, we'll bring the capital to the table. And it wasn't much, a couple of 100,000, 400,000 at a time. Friends and family, our at-risk capital that we brought to the table and said, well, give us a seat at the table. Let us be a fly on the wall. You guys would need this capital because, 2020, everything's crunched. And so we learned from those guys. We learned from the operational mentors. And then what we did was, now come the end of 2020, in 2021, we realized, and there was a pivot and flexibility that we wanted to employ in our business, realized that deals are going to be a problem right now, or challenge, not a problem. It's a challenge or an opportunity, right? So whoever has the deals in this environment, capital is easier to get than opportunities, good opportunities, right? And so I really used the last 3 months of 2020 to bring that acquisitions team together to ensure that we can build on it. We get a lot of systematized churning of deals. We probably invested, a lot of time and effort, and these guys, all the acquisitions teams, their jobs is to take the brokers out, local brokers, to steakhouses, to car clubs, on their dime. This is on their dime, right? And really, they eat what they kill. And so they got several months of relationship bonding, where those guys, now the brokers, are trusting us. We are not just one of those 50 people every week that are calling them and saying, hey, we want B and C class asset in $5 to $25 million deal, and that's our sweet spot. Well, that's the sweet spot of 50 and 100 other people, right? You guys are asking the same thing as everybody else. So why should we give you the opportunity to look at something? So we really dove deep into some of those aspects, and we started putting offers that got us really close and serious about our relationship with those brokers. So that it was a several months effort, but we figured out that the deals were the biggest thing that we're going to get. And that's now what our focus is. And then I'll speak about funds. I mean, again, it was the intention. My intention is to build $1 billion business. And, I'm not bragging about it or anything of that sort. I just know that that's the type of businesses I've seen for 15 years, and that's the type of business that I can run and create the systems and processes, et cetera, that allows me to do that. It's not a vanity metric. I don't focus on doors or assets under management or anything of that sort. It's just the size of a business that makes sense to me. So to that end, we've not focused on just $50,000 passive relationships. What we did for over the last several months is met with few partners locally who raise capital for bigger institutions or join people with bigger institutions. And we said, let me take you out for dinners. Let me take you out to lunch. Come down to my house, meet the kids. These are good guys that I would invite to my house. And just over a handful of months and say, hey, I'm not asking anything right now. Just watch my journey. Right? And once we get to 600, 700, 800 units, you would want to partner with us. You would want to bring that next capital check to the table. So in the Winston-Salem deal, this is the first time we got a private equity company that came in and said, we'll give you $1.3 million in check. And now I have 3 people who are saying, you can go for a 40 million deal. I'll bring a single check for you. And which is fantastic, or 90% of the money, and you have to raise, $600,000 or $1 million, which is fantastic. So it was very intentional on who we were talking to, and it was for a long, long period of time, and it was process over, outcome. We were not focused on when that would happen. We were just focused on good, genuine relationship, because everybody works hard. In my mind, the difference is who you're working with, what are you working on, and then how much are you working, right? So that pivotal shift of who you're working with, who you're talking to, whether you're in Clubhouse, which I'm not yet, right? Well, if you're in Clubhouse, then who are you talking to at that stage, and what's the intentional element to establish the genuine relationship. That's kind of how I thought about it.
Hemal, I have been meeting some more of the institutional fund manager people over the last couple of months, because a year ago I didn't know this existed. And then when I found out it existed, everybody told me, oh, you don't want to go with them. They take all the control over your deal, like syndicate everything with the, the 50,000 mom and pop at a time. And I think that that's a massive grind. I call it the wholesaling of commercial real estate. And so I realized there's this world out there, but I didn't know anybody playing in this. I knew a lot of people who maybe had tried it or dabbled in it, and then they change the terms at the last minute. They pull out at the last minute. They control your deal. A lot of negativity around going after institutional capital. But then I met managers, and I realized they were on video calls, and they're, like you said, they're just guys in their basement with their kids in the next room, and their wife's saying, "Are you done yet? Dinner's ready." Like just a bunch of normal people. We went to a mastermind conference recently, and there were 3 fund managers there who control very large funds. They're just family guys who are just looking to do good, strong deals. Now, can they control a lot? Can they change at the last minute? Can they pull out, rescind? Like, yes, they could do all those things. But at the same time, I felt like I'm meeting these guys and noticing, hey, this is maybe the way I want to go. Maybe I even want to start my own fund and be a fund manager. So what would you say if we're looking to meet those types of individuals and get our deals in front of them, family offices, whatever it looks like? Where do you meet them? Where would you recommend we spend our time?
Yeah, so I would say you gotta be every facet. If you're looking to attract $100 million type of company, every facet of your brand has to be looking like $100 million company, right? And you don't have to be there, and you're not being fake or anything. I'm not talking about Lamborghinis on Instagram. I'm talking about, when they go to your website, it should feel like your stuff, right? If they go to our underwriting model, is a custom model with our logo on it. And it's like clear, where they can have a dashboard, they can print off, I can give to someone when I know they need certain metrics like XIRR or, whatever, they return on cost and stabilization. And these are things that people tell us over lunches and dinners, this is what the capital looks for. Well, okay, we'll build that. So my goal is to begin with that end in mind. Who is your audience? Just like if your audience is to attract people who just starting in real estate and you want to sell a course, right? That's the type of discussions you're having. That's the type of educational series you're having, and that's what certain folks do in in Texas and otherwise. My intention was that we want to be able to speak to these bigger folks, just like yourself. If you create a fund, you control that capital. It's easier to have a transaction than you're just worried about one deal, and you understand if the deal is right and the capital is always there. Maybe 2 times out of 10, you might have some hiccups, and that's what with every other deal you might have some. But in what I've found through my experience is a lot of capital, if you talk to them before you put an LOI or letter of intent, right, and you're going into a deal, if you shop this deal around and say, hey guys, I want to play in this space, would you come jointly with me and play in this space? They'll probably do that. You'd be surprised. Right? And it's been like, I couldn't believe it. I'll tell you a story of a failed attempt. We had $100 million downtown Sacramento. This is even before I'd done my first deal, right? Crazy. There's this guy we met, I don't know how, his family office, warm introductions. He sent us, he's like, my family office doesn't want this deal. We don't deal with single tenant triple net leases. So Department of California General Services, DGS, in downtown Sacramento is in this building called the Ziggurat. It's like Luxor, pyramid shaped building. If you Google it, it's a beautiful piece of property owned by Zurich Asset Management, right? The largest offshoot of Zurich Insurance. And we just cold called them. And we were like, all right, we'll put an LOI. And so they were like, well, best we'll offer is 98. And I found these guys, friends, and whatever. And I don't hang out in those high circles or anything, but I reached out to a couple of people and said, there's a $98 million LOI to be put. Can you find someone? And we found Israeli institutional money that was willing to come up with $30 million down. $92 million was the LOI they put in. And for those $6 million, we couldn't close the deal. But it was a Hail Mary. I had nothing to lose. And they were like, hey, what role do you want to play? I'm like, of course, 50% of equity. Right? And like, let's talk about that. But so it wasn't, I wasn't shy of swinging big, right? I wasn't, the only thing that was stopping me or giving me self-doubt was my past. And it wasn't about that. I was where I was going and where I wanted to be. And it's still about that is, if you want to create that type of firm, where do you want to be and what type of assets you want to buy, et cetera, et cetera. Cool.
How much do you typically underwrite for the cost of that equity capital? I'm seeing quotes for broker dealers for like 3%. I would say is pretty typical. And where do you underwrite that cost of your capital? Just tack it on to your total raise, your total equity, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do. If we are getting a middle person in there that's going to just connect us with the family office, they typically charge 1 to 3% in terms of whatever entity or equity they bring to the table, which doesn't amount to much, right? If you think about it for larger deals. So what we do is we typically either take it out from the acquisitions fee or add it as an added fee from the total cost to close. And at that stage, then it's left to us to negotiate the term sheets. And these guys are all pretty hard negotiators, right? You have to give away a lot. But again, do you want to buy something that's $40 million and somebody's coming with a straight check of $12 million and you own 5% of that, or you want to buy something that's, quadruplex and you want to own 100% of that? So there's no right or wrong answer. I just think that the way we want to build our firm with construction management, the resources we have, and the way we're building our property management services, the vertical integration across, and the proximity to the Carolinas and the relationships that we've been able to build, it makes more sense for me to build those larger opportunities for my team. And if that means we only get 20% of the equity, that's fine. For the first 4 or 5 deals, that may be the case, but after that, we'll be able to play more. So it's the longer term vision that drives whatever short term negotiations or lack thereof that we would have to work with.
Are you giving away more equity in the beginning than you will be a couple of experienced deals down the road? Is the reason you have to give away a lot until you get more experience, you can command more of a share because you're still doing most of the work with the asset management?
Yeah, you would, right? At some point, again, it's all chipping away. Right now, you'd have to give away equity to potentially who's raising capital, potentially who's signing your loan, because I don't have a $40 million balance sheet. But I know God. Yeah. Not
another couple of months at the rate you're going right now.
Yeah. But yeah, so, all those things will chip away eventually. But again, it's about the momentum. I'd rather do 6 to 12 transactions is our goal this year. And if each transaction in the multifamily space, if you do 6 to 12 transactions, each transaction 20 to 25 million, that's a good portfolio just on existing multifamily. And we already bought 32 acres of land. So we're looking at ground up development. We can do 3 to 5 transactions there. With Mr. Jeff's help, we can do probably more, hopefully. And then, we're looking at self-storage. We got a tract here for self-storage that we're going to develop. So we want to build that expertise. It's not about how many units, how many dollars, anything. Is our machine on the acquisition side doing what it needs to do? And can we continuously improve? What's missing is the capital end. Now that we plug in those relationships, maybe those family offices want to come and work with us again and again, and then we can get better terms. And when we marry those two, then it's all about getting out of the way of that group and let them do it. And then I focus on a new division, new build. Just like I mentioned, we want to have property management next year, so we focused on that over the next 6-8 months, get that going.
I would say that I gave away a lot of my first 2 deals just because I needed to get the deal done, and they were much smaller deals. But we're all coming to the table on our first couple of deals saying, "Hey, take a chance on me," and giving away a lot to the capital raiser, to the person who can sponsor the loan, who has that net worth to do that, the experience and background. We're giving away big chunks to people all over the place who can raise capital just so that we can be in a deal. And to me, it doesn't really make any difference if it's to a family officer or like a PE fund, or it's to your neighbor who's just going to manage your asset on a smaller deal. You get 5% of this tiny deal because I gave away so much of it just to get it done. Wouldn't I rather have 5% on a massive deal? So I think giving up control, it's a temporary thing until you're the most experienced one in the room and you come in and say, here's what I want. Like what our key partners are doing. Come in and say, I'm not putting any money in this deal and I'm not going to do anything on this deal, but I'll sign on your loan because I've got the experience and the balance sheet to do it. And they take a huge chunk because of experience. So yeah, maybe you have to give away a lot at the beginning, but just keep going, and eventually those relationships will start to be a little bit more balanced. At least that's what I'm finding now on newer deals.
Yep, I agree. And on that segue, I had a couple of slides I want to share with folks, hopefully spur a few more questions, right? But what I found in this is principles to success, cheesy line, but knowing yourself, right? And I don't know if you guys have done, but in the corporate world, you do one of these 2 things. It's the Strengths Finder, right? Which is Clifton Strengths Assessment, which basically says, what are your top 5 things, right? For me, it's winning over others, communication, relations, multiple things at once in my head. That's what drives me. Am I good at maximizing a legal contract? Probably not, right? And that's why I had to complementarily find someone to get to that level of, as a team, you kind of form all your strengths and you find people who are complementary to your strengths, and that's how you build a holistic team, right? So that's one thing. Know yourself, where you are, know your capabilities, right? Some people are good at leadership, negotiation, selling, marketing, accounting, legal. Because at the end of the day, you can get your foot in the door with a deal, with money or bringing a deal, but are you really getting a role that's going to long term be making you happy and is something that you want to master your craft at or not? And that's what you got to think about. And then know your season, right? When I had 2-year-olds, would I have been doing this? Probably not, right? Right now with 5-year-olds, well, they magically sleep at 7:30. So 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock in the night, every Monday, our team sits down and does evaluation of 7 to 10 deals that have not been thrown away by our acquisitions team, right? And it's all about the balance. It's amazing how you can tweak those, and I'll talk about a couple of hacks there. Then the second thing, this is what I honed in a couple of times, right? There's no right or wrong. It's not about whether you are in $1 million transaction or 5 million or 40 million. To me, you got to understand what type of business you want to invest in or you build, right? You can have if you think about a doctor's practice with probably the spouse is the front desk or just one employee, versus running a hospital versus being a CEO of a group of hospitals. Those 3 things have a completely different competency, processes, systems, number of employees, payroll issues, HR issues, all kinds of stuff, right? That you would be dealing with. What do you want to be, right? That's what you got to be really, really clear on. And it took me a while, and took me multiple businesses to be clear on what I wanted to build. It's ever evolving still, but I want to be in this route, not for right or wrong, just because I can. I have confidence in that. Short-term goals, right? This is one thing, like you mentioned, Emma, take 5% if it's 5%, and then give back. Every investor of ours gets a Yeti mug. every tenant that we go, and when we acquire a property, we'll get a special gift and a package to know that we arrived, along with the new policies and all the property management stuff, being the bad cops if they need to be. But we want to be able to be always in that fact that if you're building a business that's not transactional, if you're not just doing 2 or 3 things and be done with it, and you want to be on the beach, that's great. But if you're building a business that's a brand for long term, you want to make sure that these are repeat customers, whether they are your tenants, whether they are investors. They want to come back to you. They want to be able to say with authenticity to word of mouth people on Facebook groups or otherwise, hey, these guys are the good guys. They know what they're doing. They're credible. You can put your trust in them. You can put your investments in them. That's what we're trying to create, right? Everything has to be on calendar. So date nights, kids routines, everything is on the calendar. That's the one thing that keeps me sane. I'm not big into tools, but all the calendars, my work calendar and my personal calendar, my assistant there, we kind of merge everything together. Monday morning, first thing, that's the first meeting to kind of run through where I need private time in my work so I can, be on a podcast or whatever. Right? But everything, if it's important, it needs to be put in, so you don't put your thought into something. And then mastering your craft, but also getting some, what's known in the tech world as a retrospective, right? So any mistake you make, hopefully as a team, you can come back, receive some feedback, and kind of tweak your plan every 3 months, right? Because like I said, 2020, great money was hard. In 2021, great deals are hard. You got to be able to do both. This question I get many a times, right? Well, how do you start, right? How did you check at webinars first, or how do I go from analysis paralysis to taking actions? And to me, it's again, the intention. My intention is for any asset class or anything we touch. So for example, right now we're going to touch new development. So we found a couple of guys who can mentor us, right? And that might mean a slice of the equity to mentor us and be part of the deal. We're going to do 1 or 2 passive investments. So we know from the best of the best how they do reporting, how they do communication, what kind of pro forma numbers they put, what kind of fees they charge, what kind of people they work with, what kind of GCs they have. All of that is knowledge that we are paying capital to make sure that that knowledge is provided to us in a fair way, right? We're not just asking someone's time and taking them for coffee and picking their brain for 2 hours. We're actually giving our money to make sure we get that knowledge. And then we'll start. We've already started with 1 co-GP partnership on 144 units, looking at a couple of more assets, and allows us to be very close to that construction part for new development. And eventually that piece would be in-house division for asset class. So I already have a head of new development in my team, Brandon. He's amazing, so driven, and we already bought land. And so we know all this combined in the next 60 to 90 days, we'll be ready for our first soup to nuts deal. And that would then start the machine of hiring employees under him, salaries, etc. And we'll move on to the next division that we need to create in this way. Hire drill sergeants, right? And I like this because it's a play on the words here. But first of all, you need to understand what's your leverage point. And there are 4 leverage points: labor, capital, media, and code, right? And some people are good at one, some people are good at other. But you know how you need to know how to utilize these points to get if you're a passive investor, hey, looking for deals. Well, what's going on? I got 1031 money. Right? Whatever the case may be, you want to be able to make sure that you attract the right set of people that are aligned to what you're trying to do, and who, not how, right? That's the second piece. Everything, like I said before, my job as the leader of the company is to make myself redundant by picking apart each piece of a capability, identifying a person who can be that role, and then hiring that person eventually allows us to build the thing brick by brick. So at least I'm armed and dangerous enough to know those functions, know the challenges of those functions, but I'm not the best person who can do that function, right? I'm not great at construction. I didn't come from a construction background. My wife doesn't even trust me with a nail gun in my house, right? So, well, can I learn construction? Yeah, if I could give 10 years to construction management as a craft, I'd probably be very good at it. But is that something I want to do? Probably not. So I'm going to find the right people that would complement me. They're going to get a lot of stake. I'm going to structure the business with them, and I'll get a percentage of that. So people who are driven, resilient, integrity, with high integrity and loyalty, those are 4 factors I look for. It doesn't matter where they came from, right? They could be whatever. As long as those 4 traits are there, and they bring certain level of competency in one area or the other, they have a job in my team. So that's how we do it. EAD, we kind of talked about it. Growth, that's the thing. Lots of people, when they have smaller businesses and they're looking to expand, the one thing they cannot give out, which I'm pretty good at, delegating, and saying to people, hey, I trust you completely in your lane to do what you need to do, because if you do it successfully, we all will succeed. If you fail, there's something, I'm accountable for it, because there's something in our process or our system that's not right. And we just made a mistake last month. We had an asset in Dallas that we wanted to buy. We didn't do the due diligence right. I have a $15,000 hole in my pocket to show for that, right? So, but did I say my acquisitions team, you screwed up? No. It's something that I need to put into my systematized processes that we've kind of laid out now, that never again would happen. And there will be next mistake and next mistake and next mistake, right? So that's kind of the systems and guardrails pieces that we're putting forward for our team to be just, hopefully should run without me even being there. And the last thing is commit to your non-negotiables, right? Whether you're passive, active, doing other businesses, or real estate, be creative and flexible. This world is moving too fast for you to just stay in one lane all the time for the next 20 years. Be prepared, celebrate those small wins, right? It's amazing. It's easy to get bogged down on the daily stuff. Be good to people. I don't like jerks. I don't want to work with jerks. And if you find someone, this business is amazing because you can find your tribe, right? If you invest with someone passively one time and you really like the values, the transparency, the work that they're doing, next time, guess what? You're always once you have your money, you're gonna invest with them, right? So it's easy to build your tribe around this real estate world of investments. And then leaders eat last, right? This is one thing. And if you know Simon Sinek, he talks about this a lot. But if you build an organization, you got to be accountable, right? You got to make sure that you put in a lot of sacrifices for the short-term reinvestments out of your pocket that you could easily maximize if you're doing only a couple of transactions and that's your goal. You got to reinvest in your business. You got to reinvest in your people. You got to pay them probably more in the first few years than you pay yourself. And that's how businesses grow, and you've got to nurture. And it's a long, slow process of building something like this that would hopefully last for a long, long time and hopefully outlast you. So that's my little 5 or 6 funky slides to kind of share. Hopefully that helped.
Thank you so much, Hemal. I love it. And on one hand, it was a really high level approach that shows us that intentions and dreams and thinking big, thinking positively is still the most important thing in here. And what that looks like on a day-to-day with the systems and processes, designs, all those nuts and bolts or the strategies, none of that's ever going to happen without that intentionality of saying, here's the kind of business that I want to build. And that's what I've been asking myself a lot lately, like, where do I want this to go and what do I want it to look like? Because all those systems and processes in the world don't help if you're implementing the wrong ones that aren't going to get you where you want to be.
Yeah, direction is important more than speed.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a story one time about an IT guy who designed this amazing phone system for the company that he was working for. And he had a lot of autonomy, and he went and he spent a lot of time, and he flew out to the location, installed the thing, and it was really well done. And the CEO comes in and he's like, we didn't need that phone system. Like this other system was working just fine. And so he did a beautiful job on something that ended up being expensively pointless.
Yeah, exactly. So what can I help answer in terms of due diligence, brokers, funds? What questions in your businesses do you have that I can help answer? Or in your investments, if you're doing passive investments?
Hemal, would it be all right if you shared that mistake you made on the due diligence in Dallas and what you learned from it?
Yeah. I don't like telling that story, man. No,
you don't have to tell it if it
No. It's a great reminder, right? So this one was one of the top wholesalers in the nation, comes up with a direct to seller transaction. I send my acquisitions team to look at the property, take 300 photos, and we really love the fact that at price per door in the heart of Dallas, next to Texas Instrument, this asset is just amazing, right? Everything checks out, but we didn't pull permits. So, and the way the contract was written was out of the couple of $100,000 that we had to put in place, $15,000 day one was non-refundable. Before we get into any other thing, even though there might be any sort of issues, and we listen to the sellers more than we should. We put up day one. What I found out is if somebody asks you day one either full money or zero money in this market, if somebody's asking you for that tiny piece of $10,000 to $20,000, in my experience with this whole, that's a red flag on a property. So we found out when we sent the property management firm and due diligence firm in there is they had a whole bunch of open permits in there that were not going to close. And once the city of Dallas found out that they're going to change ownership, the city was going to pounce on us to basically fix all those things. Until then, keep some of the units empty and would have just drained our resources. So it was a mistake that we had to eat up. And that's one of the processes now, is to just look at open permits, talk to the code violation, call the city, call the police department, get a crime report. I mean, the first thing now we do, and I'm kind of digressing, but hopefully this will help at least a couple of folks here. Let me show you. This is kind of our due diligence fancy spreadsheet, right? First thing we ask is that this is our acquisitions team have to basically fill this up, right? They use some of the analyzers and say, is this IRR kind of matching based on the type of property? If it's not, don't even show us the deal as a leadership meeting. So out of the 100 deals, 90 would not pass any of this. And so they don't show us that. But once they show it to us, the first thing we ask is like, if this deal is so great, why would even someone sell it to us in this market? They should have people falling all over the place, paying extra money for this deal. And then we use your analyzer, John, for the first back of the napkin stuff. And then get some of these things sorted out. So it's the acquisitions team against selling this property to us. And my operational partner, Yomesh, is the guy who says no all the time until he says yes. And then we go into, once we like stage one, then we go into stage two, all of these things, get the brokers involved, get another underwriting model, get some quotes, insurance, get some quotes from the top brokers in the country, see where we land, sharpen our pencils on the underwriting. And that's when we go into LOI plus early access, get the pictures, and start the capital raising even before we put in a contract. We just start. This is when we start shopping it and saying, hey, private equity, do you like this area? Do you like this property? We've done this and this. Here's our complete observations. Here's 500 pictures. Here's our institutional model that shows what returns we can earn. What do you think? You want to come in, joint venture with us? And that's when we start putting the LOI. So a lot of effort.
And that you added check open permits and crime reports to that list.
Exactly. Yep, pretty much. Check code violation. Google the last 5 years of all the news articles that you can find, because there's always a lot of gems to be found in that, and crime reports. And I'm sure every deal we do will probably add 5 more things to it. It's a never-ending process.
I'm sorry you lost 15,000, but that's a great lesson. Thank you.
Yeah, with 15,000 or 13 million or more than that, it was my 15,000 or my 7.5, my partner's 7.5, versus anybody that would trust me to have the fiduciary responsibility to invest with us. And that just makes the decision easier, right? It's tough. It's tough pill to swallow, but those are the things you go through to make sure that you have the right entity. And that's why we carry so much credibility in the market and people come to do big deals with us.
So why is that a red flag? Because I'm seeing that becoming more and more common, asking for some of the earnest money to be hard day one. Why? Can you tell us why that's a red flag?
Yeah, in this market, if it's a good deal, sellers can command 100% of the earnest money day one. 100%. 1 or 2% of your total purchase price should be put day one. And the way people get around it is this whole concept of early access agreement, right? And so what they do is say, yep, we got you covered. We'll give you earnest money day one, sign the letter of intent. Well, now, by the time the contract is being created, it's going to take 7 to 10 days. Can you sign this early access agreement for that 5 or 7 days where you give us all the information that you would typically get in the due diligence, all your rent rolls, all your packages, all the salaries, all the contracts for landscaping, laundry, whatever. And can you get access to the physical property? And so what they do is they line up the property management firm and everybody else to actually that's the shortened due diligence period. It goes from 30 days to 7 days. While you're creating the contract, you get all the due diligence done, and then you not sign it if you're not happy with the property. So a lot of people win the deals nowadays by saying, yep, I'll put 3% day one hard. What doesn't mean day one hard without seeing the property. They're going to see the property while the contract's made, and they can walk away without losing any money.
What objections are you getting when you're proposing that, the early access? What is the objections from sellers?
It's standard, actually. It's a standard thing. The objection would be, I'm not going to give you 7 days. I'm going to give you 3 days or 5 days. Yeah, so all the big players do this. And we didn't know that, and we were losing deals, right? Because we were like, no, 30 days due diligence, 30 days to close. We need to get in. I'm not going without seeing a unit, walking all the units. Why would I buy something? I wouldn't buy even a single family house without doing that. But that's the way people are doing it now.
Are you walking all of the units in 7 days, like complete physical due diligence?
All of them. Yep. Every opportunity pre-LOI, my team's crazy. Every pre-LOI, we've got at least 200 pictures on an opportunity that we are serious about. Yep. I could be anywhere. I've got a guy, my head of acquisitions, flying to Houston this Sunday because we have a deal in Houston that we're going to take pictures and walk the deal. Every unit.
So if you do a physical inspection, we'll do a physical inspection of the exterior and select units when we are first just underwriting the deal. Are you going to go back back and do the every unit? Because we don't do the every unit during the 30 days, right? So are you going to go back and do it again, or twice, or the first time you fly out there to look at it? If you're serious, you're like, if we're coming out there, we're going to get early access. We're going to have hard earnest money day one, and we're going to look at every single unit before we even send you a letter of intent.
Yeah, if it depends on the stage of the deal. If the seller agrees that we'll get no hard money down, 30 days due diligence, then we're not gonna walk every unit in the first pass. But if we are if my money is going hard in 5 days, I'm at risk. I'm not buying anything without early access and every unit to be walked.
Okay.
And that just means you get the local property management companies, and at the very least, ask them to walk it with you, right? And it's many a times it's just a shake of hands. A lot of property management companies, because they want to do business with us, they don't even charge us money. They'll do it for free. Like, hey, we got your business. If it's $6,000 typically, but you don't have to pay us. Give us your business if you buy this deal, right? Win-win.
So you're not, in that first 7 days, you're not putting any money up to that?
No, we're saying we are constructing the contract, and while the lawyers redline the contract and fist fight, we want to be able to start our process early, and that's called the early access agreement. And you basically send it like an LOI. It's a document that says, give us all your stuff, and give us access to all the units so we can walk it.
And do you include that with your LOI, or that's before LOI?
No, you don't say it during the LOI. If you put it in your LOI, you'd never get in your best and final for a broker deal.
So
after your LOI is accepted, that's when you put it.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to first win the deal.
Do you offer hard earnest money from day one, or do you try for nothing and get your 30 days, and then at what point do you say, okay,
now we get guidance from the brokers, right? If you're buying a $40 million project that we're seeing in South Carolina, every person was gonna, it's a 2019 build project with a story to it. Now, in a great town in South Carolina, if you're buying that, that means 50 other family offices are looking at the same place. We got to play ball. So it's going to be hard day one. They're going to tell us this is going to be the price. If it's $170 a door and $160 to $170 a door is the price, our first offer has to come between that. There's no chance that we'll win the deal. Now we have to work and say, okay, in our models, can we work it at 170, 175? Where we go through 100 deals and say these 5 would work at the price that the broker is asking, and we can make it work. And those are the ones we put offers for.
Do you feel that once it's listed, it kind of dies for you guys? Do you put more priority on analyzing off-market or pre-listing, pre-market deals than you do to something that's hit the market?
Yeah, that's a little hack. So we did, I'll tell you guys, and it's secret. Brokers have these meetings, right? Monday morning meetings, as they call it. And that's where they discuss who's serious and who's just shooting the stuff. And you want your name as a company to come in those meetings. So now in, Cushman & Wakefield here, Capstone, Newmark, the medium tier guys, not the big institutional guys, but the medium tier guys have Exponential Equity. They're like, yep, you took us out to car clubs, you took us out to steakhouses, but you also put in enough of those deals that are subpar or suboptimal. We went close, right? If its offer is between 9 and 9.5, we'll go and put an LOI at 9.3 and say, yeah, we're not going to be able to do more than that. And so we did that enough time. They're like, hey, these guys are not just putting a $7 million offer on a $9.5 million whisper price, but they're coming close. Let's help them win a small deal. And so then they'll help you find a pocket listing or off-market deal 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, and they'll give you a $7 million, $8 million deal. Well, if you grab it, you make it work, you buy it, then they're like, yep, these guys are serious, and they can capture bigger stuff. And then that's when the flow of pocket listings starts happening. So right now we have a barrage. We're going to get 14 deals from one of the brokers 3 weeks before they get listed, which is awesome.
Yeah. Can you speak to the passive investors in the group on how this affects, how everything that we've talked about tonight affects the passive investor in being able to put cash into deals that they can feel confident or secure are going to be successful investments?
Yeah, I think as a passive investor, you got to know yourself, right? If you're investing in Dogecoin, you might have amazing risk appetite, right? And you might be okay in a tertiary town in the US with distressed properties that might triple your money in 5 years, but you also might lose everything. The more stabilized assets, the newer the builds that you invest in, I'm not talking new construction, I'm talking existing multifamily. Those are the ones where the chances of things going south are lesser, but in turn, the returns are lower, right? So, but a good 14% IRR, internal rate of return over 5 years, with all the tax deductions and all the other opportunities that a passive investment provides for a 2015 build, where you're not going to deal with too many pipes or issues, versus a 1960s build, which is cast iron pipes and aluminum plumbing or wiring for electrical, etc., etc. It's a different profile of an asset, different age to the property, different level of maintenance, and both can make you a lot of money, but the risk profile should match the return profile, right? So a C-class asset, which is a 60s, 70s asset, if somebody is buying that and you're investing with them, you want to command that 18% to 20% return ideally. And if it's a newer build, then you're actually buying almost like a bond type of asset, and you should be okay with a lower rate of return, right? So that's kind of the way I think about risk versus reward from a class perspective. And then, again, you've got to vet the deal, vet the sponsor, you got to go through the whole understanding of where they are trying to take their business. Are they doing transactional stuff? Are they doing actual businesses? Are they are you working through a fund like Emma's, or other funds that have opportunities that actually pre-vet the deals and make it easier for people who don't have the time to analyze deals for themselves, for example. There's multiple ways of thinking about it.
So one thing I've learned recently, I would go to family offices or fund managers and talk to them about putting capital in our deal, but I never really thought about where they were getting their money. Like banks, are they getting from banks, these rich families? And then the fund operators, like people like us, are putting money into those funds. It's a passive investment that they establish a relationship with people who have capital to put in. So it's another opportunity as a passive investor to get involved in a deal at a very high level with a big operator and a fund manager who has access to a lot of deals, because when you have that much cash, people are shuttling deals your way. You can be pretty picky. So it's another opportunity for the passive investor to put their money into something that can automatically diversify across different cities, asset classes, asset types. And you can go with a specific operator, you can go with a fund. There's just a lot of opportunities there, and you get to pick the kind of business that you want to do business with. In a fund is the same as you get to vet your operators out.
Yep. Yep.
So it's especially passive because you just have to vet the fund and the parameters and the operator, and then they pick the deals. And so I love that quote where you said that the inverse of control, because you're going to scale and you're going to delegate, and you cannot be a controller. You cannot be micromanager. And so being able to trust that this fund is going to manage your money well, it gives you an extra layer of passivity there on top of what you would normally get in a multifamily deal. So that was one thing I've learned recently. And there's a type of investor even higher than an accredited investor that I didn't know existed until recently, with people with a higher net worth than $1 million. And they are identified, some funds can only take that higher net worth even above accredited. So there are people out there just like us who are investing in these deals at different levels of net worth.
Yeah, you cannot prejudge. You talk to someone and they, I've met people who own 700 single family homes, drive a 94 Civic. It's just, that's the way they are. And I drive a 10-year-old Honda Accord. I want to be like that guy. So yeah, it's amazing how different people are and how their philosophies of life and what makes them happy and what kind of businesses they are.
We call it our smart investor car.
Awesome. What else can I answer?
On scaling, I'm new in the multifamily, but I'm wanting to do the construction management. I've been in it for 30 years, and
Yeah.
as yours is there, I'm tired of being the physical one. And so how are you working to scale that? You're in South Carolina, I'm in Utah, but I'm just interested in that.
Yeah. So the construction management arm intrigues me because one thing, as cap rates or capitalization rates compress, right, and they'll continue to compress in my mind, the price of building something new versus buying something old is the spread between those two things are gonna continue to become less and less. And so new construction, there's been shortage of that. And then, affordable housing, I want to do a little bit more on the impact investing side. So we're buying a low income housing property. We want to build more low income housing properties. And so that's something that's going to continue with Biden administration, just the current macroeconomic climate, eviction trends. We're banking on tailwinds long term. So that's kind of the fundamental of why we want to create that construction arm. Because where we are in Charlotte and what we see is going to happen in the next 5-7 years, and so we want to be in there. And then to your point, right? For me, I don't know construction, so I found someone who matched my ethics and my values, and he was doing something in the single family land side. And I said, "Hey, would you like to scale this up?" And he said, "Absolutely, I could be your head of new development." We split everything 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 with my partner Yomesh and I and this guy. And it's his effort. And our job is to create the entity, bring the funds, bring the land, bring the opportunities, build the relationships with the city council and all the rezoning attorneys and everything else. So initially, it's a lot of at-risk capital from my side, matched with this working partner of ours. And he's bringing all the effort. So I don't have to learn a skill. I have something with a good steady job that allows me to add value. And I also want to match his dream and passion of being that developer and being that person who wants to do that. He's 32 years old, very driven, completely. It's like one of the most ethical people I've met in my life. So I trust him. And that's how we kind of matched up. If that helps.
Oh yeah, that helps. I just, with the project we're doing here in Salt Lake, we're asking these GCs to help us out, and
yeah,
they're kind of like, yeah, I'm not interested. It's just,
yeah. You just keep looking, man. It's sometimes you attract what you seek, right? So we were looking at this fundamental thing is, how do I create this new division which is going to help me for the next 5-10 years in this market? And we were looking and it was not about finding someone who was doing it already. It was finding someone who had the ethics and the drive and at least some competency that I could place into a higher level, build that, that he's grateful that I'm in his life. I'm grateful that he's in my life, and that allows us to work without friction.
Jody, that's me and you, man. Like you jumped in a massive way. Like your first deal basically is a massive, it's a massive deal. So you're that guy in my life.
No, I'm not afraid. I'm ready to, like I say, I'll act and ask questions later, and that's just where I've been this small guy, and my kids even said to me, "Dad, how come you haven't started this sooner?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to get to that point.
Yeah.
And so, when they ask me, can you do that? Yeah, I'll get it done. Yeah, I'll get it done. And that's just, I'm, like you say, ethically, I'll give away money and
Yes.
make sure that it's done right.
Yeah.
Then my name means to me more than anything. If anybody says anything about me, it's like, yeah, you treated me fair.
That was the magic sentence, Jody. That would take you a long way, right? And people would do business with you over and over again. Whether you do 1 transaction or 10 transactions, then it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Okay, appreciate your help.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hemal, thank you so much for hanging out with us. That due diligence spreadsheet, my head is kind of spinning a little bit. I got checklists, but you learned there's a lot of experience that went into creating that thing. It's obvious. So appreciate you sharing how you scaled, kind of bringing the institutional or the large fund into our lives and bringing that up. So, and staying after and networking and answering questions as well. So wanted to tell the people we still have in here, we've lost about half of our group. But next month in March, we are having my residential mortgage broker coming to speak to us on how to do your taxes so that you can take advantage of all these wonderful passive losses to offset your passive and your active income, and still be able to do your personal taxes and your business taxes in a way where you can qualify for a mortgage in your own name. So you don't have to buy that dream house before you go all passive income. He actually can help you craft your taxes so that before you send it in to be filed in April, check what your CPA is sending you and make sure that what's on there will still allow you to be able to get the best mortgage that's possible. And then in April, I've got an amazing guest coming on. He's got $5 billion of assets under management, probably over 5,000 units. He started out as a passive investor, high income passive investor, and he was able to quit his W-2 in 3 years just by passive investing. And then after that, he was kind of like, what should I do? So he started basically a syndication company that he's been doing the last couple of years. Amazing amount of success. His name is Ryan McKenna. And he's just going to come in and teach us what we need to know as active and passive investors, what we should be looking for, and how we're going to network to be able to find the people to get these deals done and to find the operators and the funds to contribute to get a passive income. So that's going to be 2 great ones. Hopefully that'll be really applicable to everybody in here.
That's awesome. Look forward to all those conversations. And
All
thank
right.
you all for the wonderful interaction. Appreciate it.
I'm going to post this on YouTube and in our Facebook group for you guys to watch later. And go ahead and reach out to Hemal on social media and on his website, the Exponential Equity. It's a beautiful website. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank
All right. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.